good morning. My name is Xito E and I'm with the Sahuarita Food Bank. Today we will be doing our newest podcast show, Café, Amistad y Éxito. And our new future host will be Liz Rabago.
Well, thank you, and I feel so honored to be here today.
No, thank you, Liz. Today we wanted to introduce yourself. Let us know what we're going to be talking about and what you will bring to us.
Yeah, no, one of the I feel like one of the topics that I would want to talk about is finances. I think in our culture and a lot of the cultures, we're not used to talking about finances, not even in small groups or large groups. So I think this podcast will help us introduce those topics into our families and our communities.
Okay, and why do you think we don't talk about that in our culture?
I think because we were raised that way, and then at least I'm Hispanic, I'm Latina, I'm from Mexico, and so it's like, no hables de dinero, like don't talk about money, or money is bad for you. Like we have all these sayings, and so I think we stop ourselves from doing it.
No, yes, and I do relate to that as well. Being in the Hispanic culture, we don't really talk about the money. We don't talk about savings. We don't talk about the bank or even checking accounts. So what would you like our listeners to know about?
First of all, I would like to see that they are comfortable with these topics, that they can listen to this podcast with a mindset that it's for the future for them, as it is for us, right? Like when we have these conversations, we are growing as hosts, as presenters, as speakers, along with them. And so I want them to feel comfortable that they're in a safe space with us, even though they're going to be listening, that they practice what they listen, that they share with others what they listen. That's my main goal.
Okay. And who exactly do you want to target?
Well, I think it's for all of us. I think it does not matter where you're standing, where you are, for these conversations. You might feel you are, and I like to say below the poverty line, because that's a lot that we hear when we look for services, so that we have those conversations. But wherever you are, I think listening to these topics, you might relate to one of them, because we were going to talk about investing. We're going to talk about saving. We're going to talk about emergency funds. We're going to talk about budgeting. And all of those are topics that can be used by anyone in our community, I feel.
I also wanted to ask you, what would you say to our audience if they don't know about you?
That I come from a very extreme poverty, and that I have talked, and I'm going to say I have walked the talk, right? Like if I'm saying to you, and I'm going to be talking to you about budgeting, I've done that. That if I'm talking to you about investing, I've done that. And so I do want the audience to know that all of the topics that they're going to be listening to us about, they're going to be based on my own personal story or my own personal experience. I've been in this country for 26 years now. And from the beginning, I thought finances was the way to go. My mom immigrated to this country in 1979. And when I interview my mom, because I do that very often, not in a podcast, but for my own knowledge into what are things that I can bring to this community when it comes to financial literacy. My mom is one of my teachers, right? Because I asked her, so why didn't you buy a home? And how come you never learn English? And like, those are the questions that I asked my mom. And I want people to know that I will relate to them, because that is my story. Their story is my story. I've been there. I've done that in 26 years in this country. Plus another some years. I'm not going to tell you how many, because then you're going to guess my age. But I've done everything in Mexico and here. So I really want the audience to know that they can relate to me, to my story.
Thank you for sharing that. And I do want to ask you, what is your background? What did you study? What else do you do?
Hi, thank you for asking that. That will take me back to that professional life, right? So in Mexico, I was not able to finish my high school. So in Mexico, when you graduate from intermediate school, you do a trade school. And so I did bookkeeping and I did um, typing and to become a secretary. So I did that for 2 years because I had to start working. So I did it from when I was 15 until my 17th birthday, and then I went to work. So after those 2 years, I became a legal secretary, and that's when I started. Back then, we used to get those envelopes with money, and I remember thinking when I got my first envelope without money, it's like, what am I going to do with this, right? Because that is like a feeling. At that age, I didn't own a house, I didn't have family, and so I thought it was a lot of money just for myself. But then my aunt who raised me, she's like, we're going to separate this money, and this is going to go to buy clothes, and this is going to go to your savings, and this is going to go to your food and your the bus. And at that point, I realized how important that was, that finances, having a person to guide you, right, at that early age. And I think that's when it started for me. After that, I was not able to go back to school until I came here when I was 30. This is 1990. And so I did my GED. I did an associate's in business administration, after learning English, of course. And I graduated in 2015 with a bachelor's in business management. So finances has been in my life, I want to say, since very early age. And I think that's why I'm so passionate about just sharing everything that I've learned.
And now that you talked about how family was a big part of that, and then you went to college, after college, how did you learn more about finances, stocks? How did you incorporate what you learned in college into your life?
So I did college. So I was working as a chief operating officer for a nonprofit organization here in Tucson, and then went into program development. So the CEO at that organization asked me to go into the programming piece because I had the financial and the management administrative piece. And so in order to understand like a whole business or the organization, I need to have both. So at that point, I left the finances on the side and started developing programs. But it was very interesting to see that all the programs that I developed, I went back to finances. So everything that I wanted to do included finances. And so I thought, I need to get a bachelor's. So I was doing the work with no degree because that was my background. That came just natural to me because I started very early. So then I thought I need a bachelor's so that I can integrate the practice that I have with the theory. All right. So I went to school and I started it made a lot of sense to me. So I want to say that maybe I did it the other way that most people do. They go to school and then they come and find a job. Well, I found the job and then went to school. So I have that bachelor's there. But one of the things that really motivated me to continue doing this work was an economics class that I took. The professor was very passionate about the class, and so he said, you see people come into a conference or to an event where they have all this free goodies, right? And then you go there and then you start putting everything in a bag, all this goodies in a bag. You go home, you put that bag in a closet, you never remember again, like, why did you get that? But because it was free. And so he talked about how the economy is that way. And so I, at that moment, thought, I'm just gonna work with people. I'm going to to tell people to take advantage of the free goodies and incorporate them into their own lives so that they can move on into whatever the next step is for them. So then I just, with that in my head, I tell people, you have a bag of goodies, of resources that we have in this community. You can use them. You can use those resources to go into the next level that you want, whatever that next level is. So for me, having that education, that degree, was not only to get that diploma, but it was also to see and hear what others were saying, that professor that really made an impact in the way that I facilitate my courses.
Okay. And I think you had mentioned that you have worked with nonprofits. How has your experience, or has anyone told you they that you have impacted their lives?
Yes, I hear those stories very often. The way that I facilitate the classes is I make connection with people, and the way that I can connect with people is because I've been there, right? So when we come to this country, we come here for the American dream, right? We leave our families, we leave our homes, we leave a lot of things back in our countries, and we come here um, for this dream that a lot of the times we live the tyranny of the moment, where we have to put food at the table. We have to have two jobs for the American dream. We don't have time for goal setting. We don't have time for planning. We're so busy into meeting our basic needs, right? So we do that and we forget that dream. So me working with people, I tell them, let's not forget where we come from. Let's remember why we're here. Let's just have that dream there somewhere and know that you might meet that goal, I don't know, in a year, 2 years, 3 years. And once you do, please let me know. Once you do, share your story with me. Tell me how you got there. And so I get those stories on Facebook a lot of the times. And that really motivates me and to continue it. I learn from the participants. I learn from them, like what worked with my workshops, with the topics, with the conversations that I've had with them, and what didn't, right? And so that's how I've developed like all of these topics and all these conversations from learning from my participants.
And from your participants, do you have one testimony or a story sharing that you would like to for our audience to know about?
Yes, of course. I have many, but I want to share this specific one. I'm not going to say names, but I know that if she listens to this, she's going to know that it is her. I was facilitating a program. It was professional development because I do personal, professional, and leadership development, mainly for Spanish-speaking women. But I was facilitating this program, and I asked participants to come dressed as the person that they want to become after the semester is over. And so the first day, it's an orientation where I tell people what's going to happen in the semester, my expectations for them, being on time, and like I treat them that they are those professionals, right? So they start with that end goal in mind. And so the first day, everybody comes, and then the second day, they do come transform. You can just see their confidence, the way that they dress, their makeup. And so this specific participant, like I couldn't figure out who she was, and I made a joke about, it's like, it's like introduce yourselves again, because now it's a different person that shows up. So she did. I remember her English was very limited, and when she introduced herself, she said that she was going to be the manager of a store. That was her introduction. Well, it did not. That did not happen in a semester. It happened in 2 years. She reached out 2 years after I had forgotten all about the story and everything, and she reminded me. She said, remember, I introduced myself saying I was going to be the manager. So I am the manager at a Target store now, and I'm making I can't like 70 some thousand a year, but I always remember your words. It's like you act like if you were. And that's what I do. And when they tell me, I don't understand your English, and then I said, well, you have to deal with it. Because that was another thing, right, that I tell participants a lot of the times when we have a strong accent, when we don't know our topics, when we don't know where we're going, it's our confidence is not where it needs to be in order to meet those goals. But she was so sure that she wanted to do that. She was determined and disciplined enough to make it happen in 2 years. I still follow her on Facebook and I see how much she has grown and all things that she's doing. And those are the stories that motivate me to continue doing this work, because I know that all of us have a goal, all of us have a dream, and we're here to support them achieve that.
Thank you for sharing that. I know you did mention that language might be a barrier, but even though it's a barrier, you can overcome that. And what else do you think might be a barrier for those who would like to know more about finances, and anything other than that?
The biggest barrier that I've found and noticed is our mindset, right? Thinking that we can't, thinking that it's impossible, thinking that it might not happen because no one else in our family has done it, thinking that because we don't have a degree, we cannot do that. And so there's so many things that we put in our minds. So the mindset, I think it's like the first thing that I work with people on. So let's believe that we can. Let's say that we will. And starting from today, put that in your mind that it will happen. Just as this participant, I was just about to say her name, just as this participant did, right? I mean, present yourself and get up every morning thinking that you will get to that. And I think that is the biggest barrier that I can say, because we have a lot of resources in our communities that will support and help us through this journey.
Okay, perfect. I know you wanted to mention the participant. Would the participant, would you like for her to be on the show, or would you like to invite anyone else that you have impacted their lives?
I would love to do that. If that's something that we can do, I would love to bring them. I have a lot of success stories. I have people that are continue to work on their journey and to meeting that goal, that still send me messages and tell me this is what I'm doing. And I know I said I was going to do it in 5 years. It has not happened, but I'm working towards that. And I would love to do that.
Okay, perfect. And I know you also mentioned Spanish. Are we going to have any episodes in Spanish, or what are you thinking? Are we just having episodes in English?
Well, my goal is to have English and Spanish, one in English and one in Spanish with the same topics, so that we are consistent in the message to both English and Spanish. There is a lot, our communities, we have both, right? And I'm sure that both can benefit from it. So yes, I will do English and Spanish. And of course, English, you're getting me out of my comfort zone. Spanish is my first language. I learned English when I was 30. And so that's always, it's I don't want to say a barrier, but it's just taking me out of my comfort zone. But again, if you cannot relate to people, and I'm going to be asking people, get out of your comfort zone in the way that you think, in the way that you speak about finances, in the way that you're doing in those action items. And so I need to do the same. So yes, English and Spanish.
Okay, and what will our next episode be about?
I would like to start with a mindset. Right, let's talk about what that is. I would like our audience, and maybe we can do an exercise where the audience can journal about, what are my thoughts about finances? How do I react when somebody asks me about doing a budget? How do I respond when somebody asks me how much money I make? Because I've gotten, it's like, it's rude to ask how much money you make. It's like, why is it rude? Is it because maybe we don't like how much money we're making, and so we're not setting those goals to make more money. I mean, what is it about? And I would love to learn from our communities, what is that, right? Because I'm going to ask people to journal about their feelings too about money. What do I feel when I talk about I don't know, owning a big home, or making more money, or saving for emergency funds? Like, what are my thoughts about that? And also, how do I react to those questions? So I would love to start with that topic.
A little bit about our future episodes. Like, you want people to know about how to save for a house, how to save for a car, a vacation. And I do want to ask, okay, can you give me a little tips about what can I do to buy a house in the next 5 years?
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, first of all, congratulations if that is your goal, to buy a house in the next 5 years. But one of the things that I would start with is, first of all, you set that goal. And what I like about that goal is that you have a time frame. You're saying 5 years. Thinking that it can happen before then and also after that. But let's just say that you're set for 5 years. So one of the first things that I would ask you to do is what is your credit score? A lot of people, it's like, I don't even know what that is, right? And so it's like, I would start with that, and let's do some research if you don't know what that is, and where do you have to be in order to make good negotiations. And I know just the word negotiation can bring anxiety, stress to our lives, because that's another thing, we're not used to negotiate, just because we don't have the knowledge of where we stand with finances. So that's another topic that we're going to bring later in the podcast. How can we negotiate when buying a house, when buying a car, when doing all these transactions? But let's go back to, I get so passionate about these topics, like I go everywhere. Let's go back to your goal of buying a home. So after your credit score is your budget. How is your budget? How much money are you going to be saving for this goal? How much are you paying in rent now? How much can you afford? What is the interest rate in the market? How is that are there any changes in the future when it comes to interest rate that I should be paying attention to? A lot of the times, because that is our goal of buying a home, and then we trust people, right? Our realtors, our loan officers, all people who are involved in this transaction, we trust them. And a lot of the times, we need to ask more questions to these people so that we know that we're making the right decision, that we can afford this new house that we're doing. I'm happy that it's 5 years from now. It can be 1 year from now, and it will give us time to do the research. So the first thing is, let's do the research. Let's plan for that goal. Let's educate ourselves in terms that we do not know when it comes to mortgages, and then let's just plan for it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for giving me that tip, because I do want to talk about buying a house, or even just saving a little bit, because I know some families are living paycheck to paycheck. And you also talk about being so passionate about money, about savings. But let's talk about your passions. What are your hobbies? What are you passionate about?
So my family just jokes about how I bring finances to every conversation, and so now they're asking me not to anymore. So now they're having me read fiction books and read other things that don't have to do anything with finances. I think they're just tired of me bringing that topic all the time. So now is I'm reading a lot of personal development, healing your soul, and doing that transformation work, so that I can, it's always back to finances, right? So link it to the finances. So I love to hike. Like, I love hiking. It's just disconnecting from everything that I do and that I know, and then just be in nature and connect with myself to come back to everything that's happening right now in the world, and so that I can be grounded. So I have two grandkids, a 15-year-old and a 10-year-old. I spend time with them. And I'm trying my best not to bring finances into their small world, but I do all the time. So that's always the joke, right? So I do have to monitor myself and having those conversations. But I am very passionate about helping people just meet their goals and their dreams. But nothing to do with, something that doesn't have to deal with finances is hiking. That's very passionate about that. I've hiked Picacho Peak several times, and that's a hard one for me. I did Elephant Head. That was also hard. I do Tumamoc Hill a lot, like twice a week. So I'm very passionate about that.
How do you hike in this heat? It's already 100 degrees.
Well, I'm from Hermosillo, so in Hermosillo, the heat is very similar. And back in my days, we didn't have a car. So I had to take 2 buses to go to work. And I had to walk to get the bus in that 100 degrees heat in Hermosillo. So I'm used to it.
That's wonderful. Maybe one day I'll do that as well. And you know what? I did want to ask. Okay, I know you read a lot of books about finances. Would you recommend a book to a high schooler or even someone that's starting to learn a little bit about investing?
Of course, there are a lot of good books that I've read. But one of them is that I really like is The Millionaire Next Door. That is, and also, and I know there can be a lot of controversy about Rich Dad Poor Dad with Kiyosaki. And what I want, this is where the mindset comes into place. Whatever book you're in, you can get whatever book in finances. If your mindset is that you're going to get whatever works for you, it will bring a different perspective once you're done reading it. And also knowing that when you read a book, you're going to have to maybe read it twice or 3 times with a different mentality to get the most out of it. So I do suggest that, or listening to a podcast, or listening a financial podcast. Also, it's very beneficial for your mind, for changing your mindset.
And I know some people might not be able to read or they're not interested in reading, but a podcast. What finance podcast would you recommend for just learning a little bit?
Of course, well, like I said, it depends on where your mind is. I like to listen to Robert Kiyosaki because he's very controversial, right? And I also listen to Dave Ramsey, which are 2 completely different ways of doing finances. At the end of the day, the goal is the same, to have that financial freedom in your life, right? And so I think it's like, listen to several and choose the one that relates to you, the one that has the same values that you have. And I do suggest that you listen to both, because a lot of the times you can learn from both and you can apply whatever works for you, right? You're going to be, as you grow into your financial freedom, then you will know this works for me. Like Dave Ramsey does not believe in debt, right? I think debt, and we're going to have an episode on debt, right? And there's good debt and there's bad debt, right? We're going to talk about which one is good, which one is bad, and why do we say one is good and one is bad. And so I do listen to Dave Ramsey. I get whatever works for me from him. And then I listen to Kiyosaki. I do the same. And so I just suggest to people, listen to different ones and get what benefits you.
Okay. Yes, I've heard about Dave Ramsey. I've read some books. I've listened to his podcast, so I know a little bit about what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. And just to end the podcast, I do want to ask you, what food do you like? What restaurant do you recommend here?
I love El Antojo Poblano. It is on St. Mary's, or it is in Tucson. I love Annalee's story as well. I have been following Annalee for a long time. She had a food truck and her food is from Puebla. Los huaraches. I love like everything in that menu. So I was born in Los Mochis, raised in Hermosillo, and so the food when it comes to different states is different. So in this restaurant, El Antojo in Puebla, el mole, like I love their mole. So yes, mole is my favorite.
I'm gonna have to go and try it.
Yes.
Well, thank you, Liz, for sharing what we're gonna be seeing in the next episodes and what we're gonna be talking about. Do you want to share something else?
I just want to encourage everyone to be open with a mindset when it comes to financial literacy, and think that we're not going to be here to judge, right? That's one of the things that I want people to know about me. A lot of the times it comes as a judgment when I ask questions. So I'm trying my best not to do that. That people don't feel that we're judging. How come you haven't bought a house? Well, we're here to help you get that house if that is your dream. So one of the things that I want people to know is that we can relate to those conversations and to be open and to listen to us with a very open mind.
Thank you, Liz. Thank you.